In progress right now, or shall we say OK3 from PG-13. Thunder looking good. And Kawhi Leonard is in the lineup tonight for the Toronto Raptors. They're looking to stop a 2-game losing streak on the road in Dallas.
Said that like it's news that he in the lineup. Like it don't happen very often or something. Man.
You know, second night of back-to-backs, he sits out a little bit, GA. And the bearded one, breaking records on a daily basis. Tonight, he'll get some help in the backcourt. He'll look to continue his epic January against Orlando. Chris Paul returning to the lineup for the Houston Rockets tonight. He's missed the last 17 games. The Rockets 12-5 without him because of one James Harden. Welcome to Game Time Live. Chris Miles here with our starting backcourt, Rip Hamilton, Greg Anthony. But can we get a Detroit basketball? Anytime any of you on the set, we have to start the show with that. Rockets and Magic, though, one of 4 games tipping off right now. It's only right that we start the show focused on a championship caliber backcourt and how the return of a future Hall of Famer will affect a lefty on a run like none we've ever seen. James Harden hasn't just had a really good month. He's had one for the record books. Historic 43 points, 8 assists a game, 22 straight games with over 30 points. Only Wilt Chamberlain has had a longer streak. So when you see these numbers on your screen, the first and most obvious question, Chris Paul back in the lineup, how will he affect this historic run that James Harden is on?
Well, I think he'll affect it some from the standpoint, but he'll affect it positively because if you're James Harden, one of the issues you saw in Game 7 in that conference final last year without Chris Paul is he just got fatigued down there. He just didn't have the legs because of the physicality. Chris Paul gives you another dynamic playmaker and scorer, and that's something that this group has missed. Remember, James Harden, I don't know how long that streak is, but all those points he scored without having anybody assist on him. And I don't care how great a player you are, it's comforting to have an all-NBA performer that can go out and carry some of the load. Plus, you factor in that these two guys have developed a great chemistry together after leading the league in wins seasons ago. So I can tell you, James Harden might be the happiest guy on that Rockets team outside of maybe Chris Paul that he's back.
I would have to agree with Greg. I mean, James's usage rate is off the charts right now. I mean, when he's on the floor, they go through him. It's not like when he gives up the ball, he's actually making cuts, UCLA cuts, coming off pin downs to get wide open opportunities. Every team in the league knows exactly what they're going to run, and that's going to give him the ball, put him in multiple pick and rolls, put him in an ISO situation. Now you add Chris Paul back to the mix. Now he can get a breather, especially playing off the ball, and he can get some time, on the bench. But I think Chris Paul is not going to do anything but help this ball club. It's definitely going to help him. Now you bring another leader out on the floor, another pit bull, a guy that can defend and lead the team, and now James can go pretty much in scoring mode, and it doesn't always have to be a vocal leader out on the floor.
Well, the Rockets are also a different team since Chris Paul was injured on December 20th. And by that, I mean new personnel. Just look at the new faces on this roster. Austin Rivers now in the mix in the backcourt. Kenneth Faried now in the rotation in the front court. Clint Capella out the next month as well. How will things change for these new players in the rotation as Chris Paul comes in, because their roles will change a bit?
You know what? I don't know that they will. I will say, first, give Daryl Morey a lot of credit to be able to go and get 2 quality players like Rivers and also Faried to come in. Again, not that they're going to give you the same kind of production, but, man, they take a huge load off having some veteran guys that are unafraid of the moment that can make the plays that are necessary, right? Faried can finish at the rim. He can help you control that defensive backboard, and that's going to be critical, and he gives you some frontline defense. Austin Rivers is a guy that can get electric offensively himself. I think comfortable scoring. I think his scoring is going to go up with Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Because Chris is not going to look to score as much as James, and I do think that James is looking forward to this, in part because their goal ain't to just get numbers. They feel like they still got a chance to win a world championship if they can get everybody healthy. You think about getting those 2 new guys incorporated, and then when you get Capella back, how much more depth this group could have.
Yeah, and the thing that we don't talk about with Austin Rivers is his defense. I think his defense on the defensive side of the game, he's really showed his impact on this Houston Rockets team, especially when you lose the defenders that they lost last year. So I think when they went out, they got two veteran players, guys that know how to play and can play with anybody. I think when Austin first got there, Coach D'Antonio would tell him, hey, be more aggressive on the offensive end, shoot more. And he didn't really understand that until now, and understands that, hey, you know what, D'Antonio gives his players the freedom to go out there and make plays. And Fareed has been a big-time plus just from the energy levels, putting him in pick-and-roll situations with James Harden. He's diving to the basket. He's athletic. He can finish at the rim. So both guys is a huge plus for this team.
You mentioned Kenneth Fareed, and GA, when you look at the past 2 seasons for him, he's just 29, but he only played 44 games combined in the previous 2 seasons. Why were his situations keeping him off the court when he was healthy?
Well, I think first and foremost, look at the guys that's playing in front of him. You know, they went out and got that guy Jokic. Remember, they had also drafted Nurkic. So
and had Millsap.
And Millsap and that they brought in. So in essence, he had kind of – and I think it made sense for them because when you look at the evolution of the game and how things have changed, Fareed's kind of an old school player, right? Mm-hmm. He's much more of a physical guy. You know, he's not a high skill guy. He's more of a high motor guy. And I don't know that the motor was as high as it needed to be at that point. But I think a lot of times when you see it happen in the league a lot where a guy, you fall out of favor, but you get a second chance. And I think if you're Kenneth Fareed, this is an opportunity. And I mean, he didn't just get a second team chance. This guy got to go play with 2 of the very best players in the league, a team that has championship aspirations. So that in and of itself is going to motivate him as well to play some of his best basketball. And you saw in his last outing when he went out and had that monster game.
And when you look at the Rockets completely, because Kenneth Fareed seems like a great addition to that team, as far as their chemistry is concerned, when you bring Chris Paul back into the lineup, he's a guy like James Harden, is going to assist and help other guys get baskets. How does that change their dynamic? I mean, 12-5 in their last 17.
Well, he fits. I mean, Chris Paul is probably one of the smartest players that we have in our game, and he's a great leader. He understands, okay, when he comes back, he's not going to try to overdo it. Coach D'Antonio is not going to come out and say, all right, Chris, we need you to play 40 minutes. They understand that, hey, you know what, he went out with an injury last year in the playoffs, and, hey, when you're dealing with a hamstring, you got to be very, very careful. So Chris knows, he sees that James Harden has been on fire the last, 20-something games, scoring over 30 points. So he understands who he has to get the ball to. The problem is, hey, he needs to understand that he don't got to do too much. But I think he's smart enough to know that.
Certainly Chris Paul, a cerebral player in the NBA, if there ever was one. Russell Westbrook and the OKC Thunder facing the Milwaukee Bucks. And at the end of the first half, Westbrook goes down and is limping towards the locker room. So we'll try to keep you abreast of that situation. They just went into halftime. Take another look. Looks like a collision with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Russell Westbrook went down and limped into the locker room. Highlights coming up on the other side of this break. The Kings and Clippers, they played in the matinee, and so did the Cavs and Bulls. Both teams looking to get back to some winning ways, having tough seasons. That's up next. You're watching Game Time Live.
Earlier this week, the NBA's All-Star starters were announced in each conference. So we're starting with the West. The Warriors, Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant. The Thunder's Paul George. The Rockets, James Harden. And in his 15th All-Star selection, the Lakers' LeBron James, who's also going to serve as a captain. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But first, the NBA's All-Star reserves are going to be announced on Thursday, the 31st, during TNT's NBA tip-off. You look already ready to argue.
You know I am. I'm ready to jump on y'all for some of y'all picks.
We have made our predictions, okay? So we agree on Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, and Klay Thompson. But we do disagree on which of the Spurs should join the squad, DeMar DeRozan or LaMarcus Aldridge, as well as whether or not Karl Anthony Towns should be an All-Star this season.
Karl Anthony Towns, no question to me, has to be an All-Star. When you look at what he's done this season, I like how he's responded after the Jimmy Butler trade. I think he's been more aggressive. He's out there averaging about 22 points, 12, 13 rebounds a game. So I think those stats, his aggressive play, they speak for itself. Those are all-star statistics. I'd like for him to win a little bit more, But at the same time, he's a young player in this league. He's growing, but he's definitely in the league, and he deserves to be out there All-Star Sunday. What say you, Richard Hamilton?
Oh, man. Nah, I mean, for me, I'm going with Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. I think they're my guys right there. I think that both of them have been solid. I thought DeMar DeRozan is a guy that we didn't talk about a lot early in the season. I thought he was a guy that we could have been talking as an MVP-type caliber player, especially on the season, the way he's been able to create his own shot. And he was averaging a career high in assists. So even coming over to Coach Pop, learning a new system, he was still able to come out and be dominant on the offensive end. And then you got LaMarcus Aldridge, who's been super solid, been consistent the whole season, averaging almost a double-double. A guy that knows his role, knows his position, ain't trying to play like everybody else. Still one of the best on-the-block scorers that we got. So I'm going with them two guys.
You do, though, have to have somebody representing the Spurs there on this.
Always.
You think you'll get two Spurs? You think you'll get two Spurs, though?
I think they will.
That's my question.
Yes.
Because LaMarcus Aldridge has almost averaged a double-double, and positionally, he may have the edge to get in over DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, I like DeMar DeRozan just because of what Rip said,
Yeah.
his ability to score the ball. And this year, the career high in assists. They've used him a lot as a point guard to a certain degree because the young fella went down, DeJounte Murray, so they've had to use DeMar a lot more in a different role than he's used to, and he's responded very well. And the Spurs have been playing excellent basketball. They started off really, really rocky, and he's part of the – to me, he's the main reason why they were able to come back. LaMarcus is a big part of that too, but I think DeMar
needed him.
DeMar a little bit more. So I went with DeMar, and then I gave Karl Anthony Towns the slot I probably would have given to LaMarcus Aldridge.
Even with that bad game when Jimmy Butler came back to Minnesota?
It's one game.
Okay.
One game. I didn't like how he responded in that game, but I will say I'm not going to say he's not going to be an all-star based off one game.
Gotcha.
That was relatively tame. Let's move on to the Eastern Conference.
We did all our real
Yeah, we did. It's a family affair right now.
Tapping them offset.
Oh, man.
Come here, Real.
The Bucks' Giannis Antetokounmpo has been voted the captain, along with the Sixers' Joel Embiid, the Celtics' Kyrie Irving, the Raptors' Kawhi Leonard, and the Hornets' Kemba Walker. So again, we've made our predictions. We agree on Bradley Beal, Blake Griffin, Ben Simmons, Nikola Vucevic, and Victor Oladipo, who would now be replaced due to injury. But we disagree in some areas, and this one may get a little spicier in the Eastern Conference. Rip, I'm going to give you the chance first to defend your selections of both Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry.
Well, first of all, I'm going with Jimmy Butler. I think he's probably the second best player in the Eastern Conference. I mean,
Whoa. Second best player in the what?
Eastern Conference.
Jimmy Butler?
Yeah. Why? Who do you think?
I got Giannis and I got Embiid.
We all got Giannis.
Embiid. I got Kawhi Leonard.
Embiid's definitely the most talented.
Kyrie Irving.
He missed a lot of games.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay, well,
Yes.
So Jimmy's a difficult case, and the only reason I didn't include him in my reserves is because he did spend the first 18 games in Minnesota, because he did leave somewhat of a mess in his wake. Do you think that there should be anything counted against him because of that?
Not at all. I'm a big fan of him. I know his work ethic. I've seen him in Chicago. I've seen the amount of work he puts in his individual game. And that was the biggest problem with him, when guys are not, practicing and playing as hard as he would play. But I think he's a guy that now when you add him to the 76ers roster, he's now their closer. He came in 15, 20 games into the season, and he still was their closer night in, night out. I just think locker room-wise, he's from a leadership standpoint, he's great, but also he's a player that can do a lot of multiple things on the floor.
Look at his face. Look at Brady.
Now, I have Jimmy Butler up there, too.
I know.
I can't say he's great leadership-wise because he had some problems in Chicago, some problems in Minnesota, some early on problems even here in Philadelphia. But you know what? Some of that could be overblown.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it could be.
Yep.
I don't really know. Sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. But I do have Jimmy Butler as an all-star. And my second guy is Chris Middleton. I think he actually should have been an all-star.
Chris.
I think he should have been an all-star last year. So for me, I think I'm trying to overcorrect a little bit, but I had a hard time coming up with who the last guy should be. So I went with Chris Middleton, who his stats are down from 21 points per game last year to 17 this year. A lot of that is because Coach Bud is playing a new ball movement style where he gets less opportunity, but averaging 17 points per game, being the second best player on the best team in the Eastern Conference, I put him up there as my all-star because I think you got to reward winning.
That was one of the reasons why I chose Pascal Siakam. He's put up consistent numbers all season long on what has been, through most of the season, the NBA's very best team.
Right.
But you got to go. But even though you like him, I'm going with Kyle Lowry.
Okay.
He is the heart of that team. I mean, he sacrificed a lot this year, but also you got to remember early in the season he was leading the lead in assists. now second in assists, but he's willing to do all the little things for this team. So even when they had no Kawhi Leonard in that Golden State Warriors game, he came out and led his team. So I think he is the heart and soul of this team. I think he's an all-star this year. Even though his numbers might be a little bit down.
Yeah, his scoring numbers are down.
A little bit down.
His assist numbers are up. His importance to the team is very important because you see in the games where Kawhi doesn't play, they still win because they have Kyle Lowry out there. So if you're rewarding winning, I can see that. I don't have a problem with Middleton or Kyle Lowry.
I like Middleton too. I do.
I think I'm not sure Pascal is an all-star, but I do think he'll be up there
next
for
year.
most improved.
Yes.
Most improved, he might get that.
Rewarding winning is also why I chose D'Angelo Russell in Brooklyn.
Oh,
one of the NBA's hottest teams since December. So we'll see.
I'm rooting for D'Angelo Russell. I didn't really
they
like
caught a lot of teams off guard.
I didn't really like the way the Lakers disrespected him on the way out the door.
Agree.
Like, there was a lot of comments made. That
Let him show up to Charlotte with a chip on his shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but for the first time, the NBA's All-Star Draft is going to be televised. And on February 7th on TNT, LeBron James is going to have the first pick. He was voted captain of the Western Conference All-Stars. Giannis Antetokounmpo was voted captain of the Eastern Conference. Who will or who should LeBron pick first?
For me, I'm
Steph Curry.
Ooh.
Okay.
I would say Steph Curry.
I would go KD.
I would say Steph Curry.
I would go KD. You know, LeBron likes to buddy you up a little bit.
He do. Maybe try to get him to LA.
Yeah.
That might be a way to try to get him to LA.
Talk to him, tell him, hey, take it easy on me if I see you in the playoffs. You know, hey, come to LA.
Why not use it to your advantage and say, hey, come play alongside me, see what that looks like, what that feels
It
like.
could be.
Maybe Kawhi too.
Maybe too. Yes.
Hey, time to do some recruiting. LBJ's the best at it.
It's a lot of buddy ball going on.
NBA is AAU now, baby. Team up and play together.
After the break, the highlights continue on this 5-game Saturday night in the NBA. Game time. There's more of it next.